What's good, YouTube? You know who it is. Chef D, back at it again for Chef's State of Mind, okay? And this is Dave, whatever of quarantine. And I'm just gonna make a little quick stir fry kind of deal with some duck, a couple of fresh vegetables, some rice, of course, and then we're gonna make a sweet soy glaze, all right? So, I'm gonna go ahead and cut everything up, get my duck ready. Rice is already cooking. All right, guys, so we have our duck here. As you can see, has a nice little fat cap on it. Has a little bit of silver skin all around on the meat side, but all you pretty much have to do is just get that off. That's gonna help it stay a little bit more tender, all right? So what you wanna do is you wanna cut that silver skin. You wanna try and leave as much meat behind as possible, all right? The trick with this is using a very, very sharp knife. Doesn't have to be perfect, but still has to be pretty good, all right? Now we're gonna flip it over. You see a lot of people put hash marks, and that's pretty much just to help the fat render out a lot quicker and a lot easier and a lot more evenly, all right? And that's what we're gonna do here, all right? So you wanna just go into the fat just a touch, all right? You see how I went all the way down, but I didn't cut into the meat, all right? That's the trick. It takes a lot of practice to be able to get to that point, okay? So that these hash marks can be as far apart or as close together as you want. I just like to do mine a little bit bigger just because it takes less time. It won't necessarily increase the amount of fat that gets rendered or the time period that it takes. The bigger or smaller they are, the hash marks are. It's just cosmetic. So, see, that's it for that. Let me wash my hands, and then I'll be right back with you guys. Okay, as you guys can see, we got our mortar and pestle here. Right in here, we just have some. Let's see if it'll focus. We just have some coriander. Then we have just a little piece of cinnamon, okay? This is actual real cinnamon. If you only have ground coriander, ground cinnamon, it'll be, that's 100% fine. I just like to use fresh of everything. Gives a little bit more flavor. You can also use a little bit less also because you have a lot more of essential oils in the actual pods and the actual sticks of, or actual seeds of whatever you're using, all right? So I just like to use this in duck because the cinnamon adds a little bit of sweetness and the coriander adds a little bit of complexity to that sweetness, which is gonna complement the duck, all right? So we're just gonna, and everybody has their own technique of how they like to use a mortar and pestle. There's no right or wrong way, as long as you're not like bashing it down just like that. But so it doesn't have to be completely into a powder. I like mine a little bit more coarse. We're just gonna rub that into the, here, let's just pull this back over here. We're just gonna rub this into those actual scores that we made with a little bit of salt. I have my salt here. And I guess you could mortar and pestle that also. I don't see any benefit in doing that. Grind some pepper into that. That'll be enough. Let's just mix that around. We're not adding any pressure. We're just kind of incorporating everything, okay? So, I'm gonna dump some of this in our hand. We're just gonna give that a little season, okay? And I just like to do the top side first because that is what we're gonna render out, okay? So you can just let this sit at room temperature until it comes up to room temperature because this is cold now, so we're gonna let it come up to room temperature. It's gonna take about 15 to 30 minutes depending on how hot your house is. All that salt and all that flavor, because these aromatics are fat soluble, are gonna kind of pull itself down into the meat and help flavor it a lot easier, okay? And then once we put this in a pan, we're going to season the other side, all right? So, see you guys in about 15 to 30 minutes. Okay, so this is where it gets a little bit trickier, right? We're gonna start cooking our duck. So this right here, I like to use cast iron for duck, carbon steel for duck. I don't like using stainless steel or anything like that just because the pan kind of heats up too quickly and it has a lot of different hot spots, all right? So, also if you have a gas range, which I don't have, I always start it off in a cold pan, all right? I have electric, so I'm gonna start it off in a lukewarm pan. That's just because it takes a lot longer for electric to heat up than gas, all right? So we're gonna move our duck over here. It's been about 15 minutes. We're just gonna put that right in there. You see this doesn't sizzle very much. That's exactly what you want, all right? You want this fat to render out super, super slowly, and that's gonna create a better crust. It's not gonna be as chewy. It's just gonna lend itself to a better dish than if you were to start in a hot pan, because you're gonna seal in all that fat, and you're not gonna get the rendering, you're not gonna get the same amount of flavor that you would if you let it render out nice and slow, okay? Gonna season that with salt. God, that looks good already. Just season that with a little bit of pepper. That's it. We're gonna let this go just like this. We're gonna turn our heat to about medium, low, medium, depending. It all depends on your range and how hot it gets, things like that. We're gonna let this go. I'm gonna do a little time lapse and then we'll be right back. Okay, so what I have here, I have fermented garlic honey, okay? But you can use any other kind of honey that you want to. Just make sure that it's always raw and unfiltered, okay? I also have brown sugar, which I forgot to mention, but that's not a big change. Everybody has brown sugar. If you want to use white sugar, you can. It's not a big deal, all right? I just like the extra complexity that the molasses that's in brown sugar adds. So just gonna add a little bit of brown sugar. Like I said, we don't use measurements here at Chef State of Mind. We cook from the soul, all right? Gonna add some mirin. Mirin is pretty much just a sweetened cooking wine, all right? So you can think of it as kind of like a vermouth if you were Italian, you know? Some mirin. We're also gonna add some rice vinegar. That's just gonna add a little bit of acidity. You can substitute lime juice if you wanted to, if you don't have vinegar. I wouldn't do lemon juices. It kind of adds a odd flavor. Lime juice is a lot more sweet than lemon juice. Just a little bit of soy sauce. You don't want to add too much because you don't want it to be too salty. Remember, we salted the duck also. Then you're just gonna add some honey. And this is gonna add a nice garlicky flavor, which is why I'm using this honey. I love garlic, all right? And I kind of ran out because I made this, so it's not gonna be in our vegetables. Okay, so we're just gonna mix this around. I got my vegetables all cut up. I got red and yellow onions right here. Got some leftover zucchini from, what recipe did I make? From some other quarantine video that may come out before or after this, who knows. And I have just some canned corn, all right? That's all our vegetables. We're gonna have duck, rice, this glaze, boom, bada bang, that's it. All right, guys, so we've been just moving our duck around just like this, just so that if it is receiving a little bit of uneven heat, it kind of renders and browns at an even rate. You also want to kind of push it down very lightly, not too hard, just to get that center if it buckles up, just to get that also rendered and nice and crispy. So, you guys saw me flip it just a little bit, just to show you guys what it looks like. And look at that. So, that is damn near perfect, all right? So, what we're gonna do is, we're gonna put this in a 425-degree oven for about 1 minute to 2 minutes. So, you may be saying, what temperature should I cook this duck? I like mine medium. Some people like it medium rare, some people like it well done. I think if it's well done, it's gonna be a little bit dry. Because we're not whole roasting it, all right? We're just cooking the breast. Medium, you're gonna still get a little bit of juiciness. You're gonna get a little texture also. It's just like a steak. Everybody eats it differently. However you want it, you eat it that way, all right? But I'm gonna cook my medium, so I'm gonna put it in the oven for about 1 to 2 minutes, all right? See you guys after that. All right, so this is out of the oven. And if you feel it, kind of has, it's gonna be a little bit firmer for medium than you would expect from beef. We have a cutting board right here. We're just gonna allow this to rest uncovered, just like you would any kind of other meat. All right. Gonna sit that here. Now for this, we're just gonna pour out. This is a lot of fat. All right. You don't need all of this. We're just gonna pour it out just to get kind of a small layer on the bottom, and we're gonna saute our vegetables in that. All right. So we just have a little bit of fat left in here. Gonna turn our heat pretty much all the way up to high. Gonna add in our onions, all right? And yes, I'm gonna use my tongs throughout this whole process because I wanna feel like I'm back in a restaurant, all right? Just gonna saute this up. This is probably gonna take about a minute and a half. I wanna get a nice, deep, dark color on these onions, all right? And then everything else is just gonna be real fresh and real crunchy, all right? All right, so as you guys can notice, I have not added any seasoning to this, all right? This right here, this sauce that we made earlier, has a lot of salt. So we're gonna cook everything and then adjust seasoning at the last minute if necessary. All right, you do not want this dish to be too salty. So as you guys can see, our vegetables are pretty much where I want them. We got some nice char on our onions. Now we're gonna add our corn. This is just canned corn, guys. It's nothing too fancy, nothing too special. All right? We balling on a budget nowadays. And what I want to do is kind of get all that moisture and pull it out of the corn, all right? I also want to get some nice char and some nice blisters on that also. This will be a lot easier if you were using like fresh corn or anything like that, just because it's not sitting in the liquid, kind of like this canned corn is. And this is the beauty of using a cast iron skillet. As you can see, we're already starting to get focus. We're already starting to get a little bit of charring on these corn kernels. So next, I'm gonna add our zucchini. And I just cut this into really large planks just to add a different texture and a different look than everything else that's pretty much diced. We're gonna allow this to kind of weep out all this water also. Then we'll be right back. Okay, so now that this is pretty much where we want it, we go ahead and turn our heat off. We're gonna let the residual heat from the pan kind of reduce this this beautiful sauce. Just gonna spoon that in. Make sure you give it a little mix, just in case any of the sugar didn't have a chance to dissolve. Ooh, doggy. All right. And guys, that's pretty much it for these vegetables, all right? This is gonna taste a little bit over-seasoned by itself, but once we mix it with our rice, which I've shown you guys how to make probably about 2 years ago, it's gonna help balance itself out, all right? So our duck's been resting for about as long as we've been cooking this. So I'm gonna show you how to slice that, plate it, and then I'm sending you guys on your way. All right, guys, so our duck has been resting. So how I like to slice duck, I like to put it upside down, all right? That skin is a lot harder to get through, so what we're gonna do is use our momentum to kind of get through that, all right? So you could slice it like this. I want it to look a little bit fancy. I promised my fiance we'd have a fancy dinner today. So I'm gonna cut that on a bias, and look at that. That is the perfect medium, all right? All right, guys, so what I'm gonna do is a time lapse. You guys don't need to watch me plate everything super slow. Want to make this video as fast as possible, all right? So 3, 2, 1. Okay, so you guys will never believe this. I did not hit play. So I did 2 different versions, kind of. This is a lot simpler. Rice right here, vegetables, duck. And this one I did 2 quenelles of rice, vegetables, duck. So let's, so I have our glaze here. We're just gonna glaze this duck. Okay, it's kind of just gonna create a pool. Just want to kind of let it just pretty much go wherever it wants. For this one, I kind of want to place it strategically, all right? I want a little bit right there. Want some on the duck, of course. All right, guys, and that's pretty much it. Let me grab these plates, too. That's how it's done. You have the nice fancy version. You have even you still have a fancy version, all right? It's that easy, guys. Just follow those easy tips, tricks, and solutions. Your duck will be just as perfect, just as tender, just as juicy, and just as delicious as mine, all right? Just have to follow those simple steps. Watch it once, twice, 3 times if you need to. But, as always, make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, do all that. Newest videos over here, subscribe down here. As always, I'm Chef D for Chef State of Mind.
Anywhere you go.